Bound Show is powered by the award-winning golf courses at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
All right. The Out of Bounds Show is powered by the Golden Moon Casino, Sportsbook, and Lounge. It is an awesome place to watch the games, and yes, they have a full bar, and they serve food. Comfortable chairs, all the good stuff. Pearl River Resort, Golden Moon Casino, Sportsbook and Lounge, Timeout Lounge. You can hit Philip M's, Mom and M's, DancingRabbitGolf.com. This is ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Ole Miss fans are melting down. They've lost 4 in a row to Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Texas Tech. And I know bowl games are a bunch of crazy and so on. And if you've won some games closing out the season, then your fan base doesn't get as revved up. But when you haven't won since October 29th, people are like, what the hey? What's going on? So we're receiving that feedback from Ole Miss fans today. And Arkansas held on in their bowl game and so on. So we wanted to welcome in the numbers nerd. He is Dave Bartoo, and he joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. Bartoo, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I am doing great after my 32-hour drive, thanks to Southwest Airlines canceling my kids' travel trip. I'm 95%, buddy. 95%.
So you went, you live outside of Portland, Oregon, and you drove 16 hours down to Los Angeles and 16 hours back. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. All on truck stop coffee, baby, and sunflower seeds.
Truck stop coffee. That sounds like a country
by
music
the way,
song.
Oh, exactly. I should start the lyrics right now, right? I've been writing lyrics from just from my kid's life going through the teenage years. I should do one on Truck Stop Coffee, because let me tell you, it's all ass, all of it. Actually, the one I found out late at night, you're basically getting the morning coffee, and they just give it to you for free. This one lady, I got my large coffee, right? It's 8:30 at night. I'm still 9 hours from home, and and I'm filling up with gas. And she looked at me and she goes, "Oh, sweetheart, that one's on me." I'm like, "Oh my God, this has got to be right out of the gutter."
Yeah, thick. Oh.
But I stayed awake. I stayed awake for the Cannonball Run, down and back, 32 hours. So. And the kids got to their training trip. It was the last training trip for my senior in college, and the first training trip for my freshman. So, dad's got to do what a dad's got to do.
Matrix Analytical, Bartoo on the Yuengling Lager guest line. Bartoo, Kiffin's lost 4 in a row. They they just trended the wrong way in November. What did the numbers tell you?
Oh yeah, just the wheels fell off. Right? I mean, this was so entering November, and this is something kind of new. A year ago, if you'd asked me this, I wouldn't have had this stuff. But we've really been focusing on progression and regression in college football. And you look at Ole Miss, and entering November, their offensive scoring efficiency, in my numbers, okay, they were 18th in the country. They entered the bowl game yesterday 44th. So they went from 18 to 44th in offensive efficiency. That's a big drop considering that's 4 of 12 games, right? Defense was worse. They entered November at 26 in the country. Rock solid. 18 and 26 is good. I mean, top 25 numbers. They left November 65th in the country. So it wasn't. I would guess there's probably some Ole Miss fans pointing fingers at one side or the other. Oh, the offense fell apart. But mostly the defense, because the defense isn't run by Lane Kiffin. Everybody loves Lane, and I get that. But you got to remember, it takes 2 to tango, and the offense fell apart with the defense. So you had a 26-spot ranking drop in offense and a 39 ranking spot drop in defense. They went from 22 in the country in total efficiency to 56th in 1 month. So yeah, there's a reason for the losing streak. Both sides of the ball were falling apart.
Okay. Dave Bartoo on the Out of Bounds show. Let's go to Ohio State, Georgia. And you and I had a fascinating conversation because I think the common fan, they're busy in life and they're like, Georgia's heavily favored to win the college football playoff and should be, and nobody may get in their way, and they could just waltz right through this thing. And yesterday you said, Bo, no, that's not what the numbers tell me. When you size on a neutral field, in a dome, on turf, when you size up Georgia and Ohio State in the college football playoff, Bartoo, what do you see?
Well, this is the Lee Corso not so fast, my friend moment, right? Let's just start with where Georgia's at in the perception. They're number 5 in the country in offensive scoring efficiency. Okay, number 5. They're number 2 in total defensive scoring efficiency. They are the most efficient team in college football on the season. So they deserve every bit of that number 1. Now, Ohio State is number 1 on offense, and they're number 7 on defense. They are number 3 behind Michigan in overall scoring efficiency. So the gap in scoring efficiency, Georgia to Ohio State, not that far apart. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, recruiting. Georgia number 1, Ohio State number 3. Again, not very far apart. The talent is there. And like you and I talked about, I wanted to point out when I was talking to you yesterday about this, is Ohio State, one of the things Ryan Day has done since he's taken over is he's turned his team physically from a Big Ten team into a national championship level team. A team, and what I mean by that is a team that is fast and designed to win in great environments. And a great environment is 72 dome on turf.
Got it.
That's the environment they're built to win in. Michigan, Harbaugh went and did what he's done at San Francisco and what he did at Stanford. He's built himself NFL offensive lines and defensive lines, and they are prepared to beat the holy heck out of you in November in bad weather in the Big Ten. And they've done that, right? I mean, outdoors, Ohio State 2 years in a row, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
But now Ohio State in the you said it's in the dome, right?
Yeah, it's in Atlanta. I was wrong. It's in the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. So, like you just referenced, it is in a dome on turf. So that's fast.
They're built for this game. They are absolutely built for this game. So do not underestimate Ohio State in this game as well. And to take it one step further is I started tracking teams based on who they faced week over week. And how good was the offense they faced? How good was the defense they faced? Well, Georgia, they're number 3 in overall offense in the country. They faced the 73rd toughest defensive schedule. Ohio State's number 1 in offense, facing the 23rd toughest defensive schedule. So Ohio State, in terms of the teams they faced on defense, vastly tougher. Okay? Now, Georgia has that number 2 defense. They face the 87th toughest offensive schedule. Ohio State, 50th. The teams Ohio State faced this year were, on average, vastly better on offense and defense than what Georgia faced. In fact, Georgia, by my numbers, had the 5th easiest opponent performance schedule in college football this year. 87th offense faced, 73rd defense faced. Yeah, they're an awesome team. They blew teams out. But when you look at the numbers, their schedule was so favorable because, remember what I was telling you yesterday, I don't look at this, Georgia, I don't give them credit for beating a number 6 offense, Oregon. I give them credit for beating a number 53 offense, Oregon, in September, because that's what Oregon was. Who they played in September is not who Oregon was at the end of November.
Yes.
So it's a progression of the schedule. So I look at everything, and I still go back to just the straight-up performance, regardless of who they played. But if we're going to get into the minutia, we have to talk about Georgia's schedule being much, much easier at least on paper, much, much easier than what Ohio State faced. And that's why I think the gap, this is gonna be a good, I'm expecting a good game. I mean, overtime, tight. I mean, all the numbers point to this is just going to be one of those, John Madden slobber knockers.
We're visiting with Dave Bartoo, numbers, analytics, metrics, college football. He joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. The number in the game is Georgia minus 6.5.
Yeah. I'll take the Ohio State. Okay. I'll take the Ohio State, and because give me the points, because I think this is closer to dead even than anything. And I'm actually excited to see what Ohio State. I mean, Ryan Day's been building this for a few years to get to this point, so they haven't had the opportunity to do this. So I'm excited to see what Ohio State does in that situation, given what I see as a perfect environment for their roster.
Okay. Let's move to Michigan TCU. That is in Glendale, Arizona, right outside of Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And, two excellent teams. Coaches did a great job this year. The line is minus 7.5 Michigan, but
what we know that Harbaugh, once he starts beating somebody, he loves to beat him down. Right. I mean, Harbaugh's a front runner. He'll beat him down. So, and you start looking at the numbers. We can look at the numbers the same way with Michigan TCU. Michigan's got the number one defense in college football this year. Now, the average offense they faced was 110th. Remember how I was just making fun of Georgia's 87th offense they faced and having the number 2 defense? Michigan faced the 110th toughest offensive profile. So they didn't face anybody on offense to earn that number 1 defense. So they took advantage of their schedule. This is what good teams do. But defensively, Michigan is number 2 in offensive scoring efficiency. They faced the number 11 toughest defensive profile in college football this year, and they put up the number 2 offense. That, of all the numbers, that is the most amazing number. Probably the most underrated thing in all of this is Michigan's offense. So they have faced nothing but tough offense or tough defenses this year. Now TCU, not a great defense, right? I mean, TCU entered November with the number 61 defense, exited with number 43, so solid. Everybody, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, they're all top 10 in offensive defense. TCU is number 8 in offense, but number 43 in defense. So I think the Michigan offense is going to feast in this one. But TCU's defensive coordinator, Gillespie, get to know that name. It's going to be one of the top 5 defensive coordinators in college football going forward, probably for the next decade, unless he becomes a head coach. And TCU's offense, some number 8 sounds great, but the other teams in the playoffs are number 1, number 5, and number 2.
Wow.
So, it is, you got to be great to be great. So I'll take Michigan in the points. I think they have the biggest advantage on the field, which is their offense versus the TCU defense. But hey, maybe the magic is still in TCU. It's been a pretty magical year so far. I mean, Sonny Dykes did inherit the number 11 offense in college football last year, and they turned it into the number 8 offense this year. So, there was a little bit of, there was a lot on the table for TCU that people didn't see coming into the season. We just weren't expecting it from a new coach and staff.
Okay. What if Harbaugh goes to the NFL, man? Can you imagine if whatever they do in the playoffs, lose, win it? I mean, I'd love a Michigan-Ohio State national championship game, which is kind of where you're going in this conversation. I think that would be awesome because we're just coming off Georgia-Bama and
right.
I think it'd be cool.
It would be. There would have. Are you kidding me? There had to be a fight cam for that game, right? there had to be. I mean, you think Ohio State? I mean, they I don't think they've ever faced each other in a national title game.
No.
Could you imagine those two fan bases? Seriously, they'd have to have semi trucks out there to arrest people. It would be glorious. And everybody would be fighting in that game.
Well, and the game is in L.A. at SoFi. And of course, both those fan bases have huge alumni bases and plenty of money. So,
it would be a zoo.
Yeah.
It would be a zoo. So, but we'll see. That's why we play the games. College football gets weird, and I think that's why I love it more than the NFL. NFL's pretty predictable, and even when an upset does happen, you never remember it, right? You know, if Tennessee beats Alabama at home in the NFL, that's called Sunday. Nobody cares. That one, Tennessee could have lost the rest of their football games. They'll talk about that for 30 years.
Yes, they will.
So that's why I love the college football side of it, because rivalries mean something, and big games mean something. And, man, sometimes it just gets weird, like TCU pulling out a win in the playoffs.
All right, I want to switch gears, and this may be – I think you're going to tell me this is impossible to handicap, but we're visiting with Dave Bartoo. Bartoo, Mississippi State, Illinois, in Tampa, Florida, on Monday. Mississippi State's been through a hellacious tragedy, losing Mike Leach, shuffling the staff. Brett Bielema's done a good job at Illinois. They've had some opt-outs. Everybody has opt-outs, you know, so I think it's tough. Now, the line is -1, MSU. So it's basically a pick 'em. How in the hell would Dave Bartoo handicap this game, Mississippi State versus Illinois?
Well, if I had to bet $20 on one of them, I'm a State fan, so I just bet Mississippi State, right? Regardless, because that's all this is a feel. Like like you said, Mississippi State, they've lost players, they've lost coaches. It's a mess right now, right? I mean, it's a controlled, chaotic mess, but it is what it is. But you got to remember, Illinois, this is the 93rd best offense in college football this year. 93rd. Okay, to give you an idea how bad that is, Jimbo Fisher's was 99, and we both saw that offense.
Good grief.
Okay. So Illinois is not so great on offense, and their defensive coordinator's already gone, man. Ryan Walters is already to Purdue. So their young stud DC, he ain't calling no plays either. So Illinois is a bit of a mess as well. Mm-hmm. So this is just like I said. I don't know how you handicap it. I wouldn't go near it. I'd say this is, if there's some way you could gauge the emotional energy of a team in the bowl, okay? Because we watched enough bowl games. Heck, even in the last week, you could feel the emotional energy. Who's there? Who's not?
Right.
You know, Florida fans. Right? They're all pissed off because they got blown out. Dude, they were 6-6. They played 9 teams that were more exciting and tougher than Oregon State in that game, leading up to that game? Who cares? If you didn't think they weren't getting blown out, what kind of bowl season have you been watching for your life?
Right.
You know, that's the way it works. So, completely outside the numbers. All right. So with losing Mike, here's your emotional look at it. To me, they're going to come out flat as just that's it, or they're going to come out emotional and quote unquote play for Mike. So if you're going to get the latter, if you're going to get playing for a reason, if they got a reason to play for, because Illinois don't. Illinois slid in November. I mean, this was a team that was top 25, top 20, top 15, and then they started getting blown out. They've lost their defensive coordinator. Illinois got nothing to play for. So I'm not betting on that team. So with Mississippi State, if I'm having to bet on somebody that has something to play for, and I think Mississippi State has something to play for.
Okay, yeah, Bartoo's referencing in November, they lost to Michigan State, Purdue, and Michigan back to back, and then beat Northwestern, who was awful, to end the year. So that's what Bartoo's referencing. The wheels kind of fell off there. They were one of the hot, fun teams. And then lost three in a row. All right. Well, I think we hit everything that we. How about Sam Pittman last night? Kendall Briles drawing up all kinds of stuff for Arkansas to score 17 points in overtime and beat Kansas. Well, in overtime it was 17-15, which was incredible.
Well, all I should say that's sometimes better to be lucky than good in a football game. I think
True.
I think the amazing thing here is the offense that Leopold has been able to generate at Kansas. That's amazing. I mean, that team was worse than Vanderbilt 2 years ago, which is saying something.
Wow.
And no talent, and look how much they've turned that around. That's amazing. And then there's a bowl game that both teams were motivated, right? I mean, I remember walking in and looking at that game, 38-13. That thing's over with. And then my nephews are screaming, "It's tied! Switch the channel! Switch the channel!" And so no, that was solid. I'm interested. Bryles doesn't appear to be going anywhere staffing wise for Pittman, so he gets lucky and gets to keep Bryles. But now you bring in Williams to replace Odom. I feel it's a downgrade. Not sure how much Odom was looking ahead to be a head coach this year, but there was a lot of injuries for Arkansas. The hire from Williams, young upcoming guy. Hard to really judge right now which direction he's going. I'd say that side of the hire, that equation, not good or bad, just kind of wait and see a couple years and see where that goes. I think he's too young to grade right now.
All right. Do you plan on running in any animals today? Later in the day, running around, talking to yourself?
No, today is as soon as I get off the phone with you, it is back to 24/7 coaching search. There is a lot going on. We're in the middle of a whole bunch of stuff across the country, and today is going to be no exception to that. It is go coaching carousel as soon as I'm off the phone with you.
All right, buddy. Thanks for stopping by. Happy New Year.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Dave Bartoo on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. And Bartoo likes Ohio State, and he likes Michigan. That'd be incredible. Ohio State, Michigan, out in Los Angeles in SoFi Stadium, which is the Rams Chargers Stadium, and the NFL office and network is all attached to it. I think, talking about ratings, I know we're awesome. And we crushed it this year, and our streaming in the SEC was even better. But Ohio State, Michigan would break the bank. It would break the bank on college football ratings.
It's a bigger deal than Alabama LSU meeting in the playoff.
Or Bama Georgia,
because it's as close to in-state rivalry hood at a title level as you could get.
It's Bama Auburn. Now they're not
correct.
Bama and Auburn aren't as big,
but it's the same concept.
That deal,
Yeah.
And
it's that type of hatred and venom, and
Yeah.
and like I said, if that happens, what do you do if your team loses? You don't recover.
No, you don't.
There's not enough regular season wins in the world that meet that.
It's your deal on Krzyzewski losing to North Carolina.
It's the end.
Now,
It's
the
the
one
book
thing is North Carolina still had another game, and they didn't win the national championship.
Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Hey, today we've got Syracuse, Minnesota for you degenerates, gamblers. Syracuse, Minnesota at 1. Oklahoma, Florida State at 4:30. And Texas and Washington tonight in my favorite town, San Antonio, at 8 o'clock. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. You missed anything, go to Apple Podcast. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. Lunch today brought to you by Bulldog Burger. Blake and I may head over there in Ridgeland, Lake Harbor. Lunch today brought to you by Bulldog Burger in Ridgeland. It's right down from the Armory on Lake Harbor in Ridgeland. Right down from the Armory, Lake Harbor in Ridgeland. And we will see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Out of Bounds. 105.9 The Zone, ESPN.